Hello, and welcome to Spirit Among Us. I really love the song Amazing Grace. It was written quite some time ago, and I'm usually not a big fan of repetitive sounding songs, but for this song, I think I've found that it just hits so close to home. It's a song of being in awe of God, who has this amazing grace showered over us. It's an expression of praise and love given back to our Creator in response to the amazing grace and love He's shown us. And that is a really beautiful thing. But let me ask you a question. Do you really know God's grace? Have you experienced His grace firsthand and seen His love for yourself? Maybe your answer to these is yes, but still right now you seem to feel disconnected from Him. When was the last time you came face to face with God's love? When was the last time you felt like you could truly proclaim God's amazing grace? Well, let me tell you something. God never wants us to forget His grace or His love, and He is always ready to show them again. So what is grace? Why is it important for us, and what does it do for us? In this message, I'd like to highlight three main benefits from God's grace. First of all, and perhaps most importantly, God's grace saves us. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 and 9. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing, it is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. Despite all our waywardness and denial of God, despite us betraying Him and turning against His word, despite us not being worthy of a perfect being, God has chosen to save us. It is not by our own works that we have been saved, but by the grace that was displayed on the cross. When we were dead in our sin and trespasses against God, He sent down a mediator between us and Him, someone to take the place of the wrath we deserved. This is truly amazing grace. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So God's amazing grace saves us, takes us out of condemnation, and redeems us as God's children. The second thing grace does is it frees us from sin. Romans 6, verse 14. For sin will have no dominion over you, since you are not under the law, but under grace. Now that we have been saved, God's grace gives us the ability to avoid the sin that we were once entangled in. We have been shown such unconditional love that it has freed us from our sin. Notice how strongly Paul makes this statement here in Romans. Sin will have no dominion over you. That is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. By the blood of Jesus and the amazing grace of God, we are no longer bound to sin, but we are completely free. The third amazing thing that God's grace does in our lives is it empowers us. We are told in 2 Corinthians that Paul had a thorn in his side. We are not told what exactly it was, but he pleaded with God to remove it. Instead of granting his request, God wanted to teach Paul something. God's grace is strong enough for him. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. But he said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest on me. God told Paul that he didn't need to live without the thorn, because it would just teach him to rely on His grace even more. So now, what do we learn from this? God's grace doesn't simply give us strength in our weakness. It does not just empower us. God's grace is so sufficient that His power is made perfect in our weaknesses. Now this is truly amazing grace. This grace given from God is the thing that saves our lives and redeems us. It is what frees us from our sin, the thing that rips the chains we were once bound in. And what's even more is God's grace always empowers us throughout our lives. His grace is enough for us. Let us never forget what an incredible gift God has given us. Amazing grace.